In the previous video, I talked about the carb conspiracy and how there is circumstantial economic loop to whereas the government and the economy incentivizes carbohydrates, which is why when you go grocery shopping and you look at the cereal aisle and the potato chip aisle or the chips aisle, whatever, popcorn, whatever you may have you, and even the snack aisle, those aisles are massive and completely dedicated to just that one product, right? That one product type. And for you, it's a benefit to you, right? Oh, we got all these snacks and all these sweets and all these yummy. But if you know better, you do better, right? And so because of this carb conspiracy, this leads me to talking about sugar addiction. And so now you would think, well, if there's a conspiracy to push carbs into the economy because it's more profitable than protein, then there's a conspiracy to keep people addicted to sugar, right? And yes, there is. In the previous video, I also talked about a fat equation, whereas corporate scientists, they get paid to conjure up the perfect equation and the perfect proportion of carbohydrates in any particular food product or meal to keep you fat, to keep you addicted to the carbohydrates or addicted to the sugar. So now in this video, I want to hone in on the effects of sugar addiction. I want to hone in on the effects of sugar addiction, how long to stabilize your mood after quitting, and why sugar cravings feel so emotional and not physical per se, and how to break sugar dependence. I want to talk about how to break sugar dependence without willpower. All right. So the effects of sugar addiction. Let's go straight in and not waste any time. Sugar addiction directly messes with your mood because it hijacks the same brain systems involved in motivation, pleasure, and emotional regulation. Here's how it actually plays out. So number one, dopamine spikes. Dopamine spikes lead to emotional crashes. So dopamine is, back in the day, they used to say, oh, you smoke dope. They called it dope because those particular drugs would trigger the dopamine hormone. This is all neurochemistry. This is we going deep. All right. So dopamine is the pleasure hormone. You know what I mean? Dopamine is not necessarily what you feel when you fall in love, but dopamine is what you feel when you have sex. You see what I'm saying? And so, there's a saying, I have a particular comfort food, right? Well, why is it comforting for you to eat that? It's because it's spiking your dopamine. So that dopamine spike causes emotional crashes. Sugar causes a rapid dopamine surge, the quote-unquote feel-good chemical, like I just explained. The problem, it drops just as fast. So you're always chasing the dragon, as drug addicts like to say. It leads to irritability, low motivation, anxiety, emotional flatness, and cravings that feel like something is wrong. So basically, it makes you an asshole. It makes you an asshole. Over time, your brain becomes less sensitive to dopamine, meaning you feel less pleasure from normal life unless sugar is involved. So becoming a sugar addict makes you not only does it make you an asshole, but it makes you an addict, period. Because drug addicts are the same way. This is crazy. So number two. So the first one is dopamine spikes lead to emotional crashes. Number two, blood sugar swings equal mood swings. So when your so not just dopamine, but the blood sugar now we're paying attention to blood sugar. When your blood sugar spikes, your mood begins to swing. So high sugar leads to insulin spikes, leads to blood sugar crash. I think I want to do another video on the importance of insulin and how insulin works in the body. I don't think people have broken that down enough. Insulin spikes, insulin management, because your body needs insulin, but it only needs but so much of it. And when it has too much insulin, that's where you get those dark spots around the neck and the cheek on your face. That is very, and it takes a while to get that way, but for some people, according to their health and their lifestyle, that's very easy to achieve, unfortunately, right? But high sugar leads to insulin spikes, leads to blood sugar crashes. The crash causes fatigue, brain fog, anger or impatience, depressive feelings, or poor focus. So not only does sugar addiction turn you into an asshole because of the dopamine spikes, but then it makes you lazy. So now you're a lazy asshole. I'm sorry. But this is science. This is the reality. Fatigue, brain fog, anger or impatience, depressive feelings, and poor focus. That's crazy. This is why people feel hangry or emotionally unstable after sugary meals. And I want to, I want to stop here before I go into the next part, number 3. I think with and targeting black people. Yes, I'm gonna go there. With our culture being so woven with trauma, or ingratiated with trauma, and or being built upon trauma, you got to think you have trauma and then sugar addiction. So you have people who are riddled with trauma, and then they're addicted to sugar. So now they're riddled with trauma. They're becoming assholes, and then they're lazy. Like how much more stereotypical can this be? Or I should say, what is the origin of this stereotype? We're peeling the layers here. We're going deep. It's gonna hurt. I'm sorry. Not sorry. So number 1 is the dopamine spikes lead to emotional crashes. Number 2, blood sugar swings equal mood swings. Number 3, increased anxiety and stress hormones. Frequent sugar intake increases cortisol, the stress hormone, adrenal fatigue, and nervous system overstimulation. So this is why sugar addicted people sleep so much. If you're always stressed, and then you're low on adrenaline, so you first of all you're metabolically an asshole because you're irritable, you have low motivation, anxiety, so on, and then you're lazy because you have fatigue and brain fog and depressive feelings. So now all of this combined spikes your cortisol, stress hormone. I think, you know what, cortisol and insulin. Yes, I need to write that down. Cortisol and insulin. So yeah, it spikes your cortisol. So now not only are you mentally lazy, now you become physically lazy, or just physiologically lazy altogether. Adrenal fatigue. So like adrenaline is the, I guess the hype hormone. When someone feels like amped up and hyped and like, turned up, that's a turn up hormone, and if you're low on that, it's hard for you to really turn up. You know what I'm saying? You don't really turn up at all, really. You know what I mean? It's like it's bad. And then nervous system overstimulation. So if you're overstimulated, you say, whoa, back, this is too much. I'm going to sleep. I can't take this, right? This is very important. It's very important to understand the science behind this. You know what I mean? Then you can't argue it, So yeah. So where were we? So yeah, cortisol, stress hormone, adrenal. So number 3, increased anxiety and stress hormones. Frequent sugar intake increases cortisol, adrenal fatigue, nervous system overstimulation. This mimics anxiety disorders and makes stress feel harder to handle. So if you want to overcome depression, basically you got to overcome sugar addiction. I really think that's for most people. I really think that's what it is. I really think that's what it is. I remember the rapper from 3 6 Mafia. I think Paul something, DJ Paul. He said, I don't mean to laugh. He said sugar addiction was harder to break than coke. I'm sorry. He said that's crazy. That's crazy. So number 1, dopamine spikes lead to emotional crashes. Number 2, blood sugar swings equal mood swings. Number 3, increased anxiety and stress hormones. Number 4, sugar addiction worsens depression over time. Chronic sugar use increases inflammation, linked to depression, disrupts gut bacteria because bacteria feed off of sugar, right? And so the good bacteria isn't doing what it's supposed to be doing because it's too busy consuming sugar. Or the bad bacteria feed off of sugar, so now you have a bad gut. Affects, and yes, a lot of people don't know there's good bacteria and bad bacteria. You think of bacteria, you think it's just bad altogether, right? But no. There's good bacteria and then there's bad bacteria. Disrupts gut bacteria, affects serotonin production. So serotonin. So I said dopamine is the hormone you feel when you have sex. Serotonin is the hormone you feel when you're in love. You know what I mean? Or when you think you're in love. But yeah, and so the gut. See, this is a whole nother topic. We could go down the rabbit hole with this one too. The gut health is very important to your hormone regulation altogether. So let's say you're consuming a lot of sugar and the bad bacteria is feeding off of that sugar and overdeveloping in your gut, and it's weakening the good bacteria in your gut. And so now the hormones in your body have to overcompensate, and your organs have to overcompensate. Certain hormones trigger certain organs. So there's adrenal glands, there's hormones in the liver, hormones in the pancreas. I need a diagram. I wish I had something up. But yeah. And so when you have so much bad bacteria in your gut because of so much sugar, now those hormones have to regulate, and those cells have to regulate and compete with the bad bacteria. And so now, so people who are sugar addicted, not only are they assholes and they're lazy and they're depressed all the time, they find it hard to fall in love. Now they find it hard to fall. Like this is all like I'm going from the inside out. A lot of people go from the outside in. I'm going from the inside out. So it increases inflammation linked to depression, disrupts gut bacteria, and affects serotonin production, reduces emotional resilience. So you're always in your feelings. So not only are you an asshole and you lazy and you depressed, but now you always in your feelings. And nobody want to fuck with you. Like this is, oh my God. The brain literally becomes worse at regulating mood. You're a Krabby Patty. Sugar addiction makes you a Krabby Patty. This is terrible. All right, so let's recap again. Number one, sugar addiction causes dopamine spikes that lead to emotional crashes. Number two, sugar addiction causes blood sugar swings, which create mood swings. Number three, sugar addiction increases anxiety and stress hormones. Number four, sugar addiction worsens depression over time. Number five, sugar addiction creates addiction-like behavior. So sugar addiction shows the same pattern as drugs: cravings, loss of control, mood swings when deprived, and temporary relief followed by guilt or lethargy, being lazy pretty much, right? That emotional roller coaster can destabilize the mood long term. It destabilizes the mood long term. So the bottom line, no pun intended, no sugarcoating, right? If someone eats sugar frequently, the mood is less stable, their stress tolerance is lower, their motivation drops, their emotional baseline declines. No one tells us this, people. No one tells us this. And of course, if you're a multi-million-dollar, trillion-dollar corporation, why would you? Why would you tell people this? Not only the food corporations that deliver and produce the food, but the retail corporations that house the food and warehouse it and sell it to you, right? Why would any of these people along the quote-unquote food chain, no pun intended, why would any of them educate you on this? And then this is why we have a country the way it is. When we have a snack and chip aisle more massive and tended to than the produce aisle and the meat aisle and the dairy aisle. You know what I mean? Like there's a battle going on in your grocery store. There is a silent corporate battle going on in the grocery store. And I'm making you aware of it. I'm preaching the gospel, baby. I'm preaching the gospel. Cutting back doesn't just help physically; it restores emotional control, focus, and mental clarity. So not only so it restores your gut health, it restores your hormonal health. I've dealt with people like this in the past, but you see some fat people who have hormonal issues. You know, they grow hair in odd places. No matter what they do, you know, they can't burn fat, they can't lose weight. You know. These are hormonal issues. And a lot of this comes from, a lot of this stems. Some of it is genetic, but some of it also stems from their nutrition, and ultimately sugar addiction.
When you see somebody who is in really good shape, there are a few conclusions you can draw about that person. 1, they're disciplined and they understand dedication. 2, they are patient and they understand commitment, because we know nothing just happens overnight. So they have to be patient with themselves in the process in order to see results. 3, that person is mentally tough. Life hits us with stress. Our bodies get fatigued. We get sore, but they don't allow that to become an excuse to give up or to become inconsistent. And 4, they have self-love, because we know that anything that you love, you take care of, even down to the point of it being a sacrificial love, because when you love something, you also keep things away from it that could be harmful, like being gluttonous or alcohol consumption, etc. So when you see somebody who is in really good shape, you're not merely just observing something physical, but it's indicative that there are a lot of other good character traits underlying.
I dug super deep into the effects of sugar addiction. Let's talk about how long it takes for the mood to stabilize after quitting sugar. So phase 1. So if you quit sugar, right, let's go, right? Phase 1, the withdrawal. For 1 to 5 days, this is the hardest part. What happens is you're irritable, you're low mood, you have a low mood or mild depression, headaches, fatigue, strong cravings, and brain fog. So basically you have all the symptoms of being sugar addicted, but it's just now heightened because you haven't had sugar, right? Your brain is used to frequent dopamine spikes from sugar. So when sugar stops, the dopamine drops temporarily. So the happy hormone drops. So you're a little miserable right now. It's okay. You're going to be a little miserable. It's going to hurt. This is not you. It's neurochemistry recalibrating. Yes, I say it all the time. When I see someone who's depressed and nothing excites them, and you know, they don't want nothing, they don't want to be nothing, and you know, they have to recalibrate their dopamine sensors. It's not that they lack motivation. They don't have. It's just they don't have it at all. They don't have the wiring for the motivation to begin with. So yes, so phase 1 will let the withdrawal last 1 to 5 days. So that first week is going to be a kicker, right? Phase 2, the recalibration, the mood starts to stabilize. what improves? And your energy becomes more consistent, the cravings weaken, the focus improves, and the anxiety starts to drop. And sleep improves. Sleep improves, yes. Your insulin response stabilizes and your brain begins restoring dopamine sensitivity. So remember I talked about insulin and insulin management, how the body needs insulin, but not too much of it. And when the body gets too much insulin, that's when you become fat, right? Or because that's the body's way of storing, of surviving, saying, oh wait, we have too much insulin, too much energy, too much food in our system, so we need to store it. We need to store that energy for later. You know what I mean? And it's the body's way of doing that is storing it as fat. And so when you're recalibrating, your insulin stabilizes. You know, your insulin stabilizes. This is the second week now, right? The insulin stabilizes. So from 6 to 14 days, or from day 6 to day 14, the insulin stabilizes, and then the brain begins to restore dopamine. So you find yourself. So now once you get past that first week, now you can actually find yourself becoming happy again. You start looking at the world differently. You start appreciating things. I notice a lot of lazy assholes who are depressed all the time. They rarely appreciate things, and it's not because they don't have the appreciation. It's just that they can't. They don't have the wiring. They're uncalibrated, right? So day 1 through 5 of quitting sugar is the withdrawal phase, and day 6 through 14, that second week, is the recalibration, and then phase 3, the baseline reset. That's week 3 to week 4. This is the turning point. This is where your life begins to change, pretty much, where you become an entirely different person. The fat will fall off at this point. I guarantee you. Well, based on your physical activity too and your lifestyle. But if you're quitting sugar, the fat will fall off. I promise you it will. This is the turning point. Most people notice more emotional control, less irritability, fewer mood swings, higher baseline motivation, and clearer thinking. So basically, everything, the opposite of everything I've just been talking about for the past 15 minutes, you will achieve after 3 to 4 weeks of quitting sugar. So by 30 days, most people feel emotionally better than they did while eating sugar, even if they don't realize sugar was the problem before, pretty much. All right. Woo! We breaking it on down so it can forever and consistently be broke. So we talked about the effects of sugar addiction, and we talked about how long it takes for the mood to stabilize after quitting. Now let's talk about why sugar cravings feel emotional. Why do sugar cravings feel emotional? It's not physical. Sugar craving feels emotional because it is emotional. Sugar hijacks 3 systems at once. This is crazy. Yeah, hijacks. So the dopamine, the reward and motivation. Sugar triggers dopamine. We talked about that. Harder than most food. The brain learns that stress leads to stress. When you're stressed out, you need sugar, and then you feel relieved, right? So later, when you feel bored, lonely, overwhelmed, tired, or anxious, the brain doesn't ask for calories; it asks for relief. So the brain doesn't know. Like I learned this a long time ago. Like when you have cravings, when you crave a particular item, there's your body and your brain are having a conversation when you have cravings, right? Because first of all, if you're craving, that doesn't mean you're hungry. So like that's a difference. So that ought to tell you something. That ought to be a red flag for yourself, right? But when you're craving, the body is saying, "Hey, I'm deficient in this," or "I'm deficient," or I need this particular trigger. I'm missing a trigger, right? Craving, because that's what a craving is. Craving is pretty much like an addiction. Pretty much, it's your body saying, "Hey, we haven't had our fix," right? And then your brain is saying, "Oh well, the last time I felt this way, I had this particular food." So let's say a chocolate bar, right? Well, the last time I felt this way, I had this particular bag of chips. So now you're saying, so now your conscious brain is saying, "Oh, I'm craving this bag of chips," when your body is saying, "Hey, I haven't had this dopamine fix, and the last time you remember having that dopamine fix was when you ate that particular food." So that's pretty much how cravings work. So it hijacks the dopamine system. Your brain doesn't ask for calories; it asks for relief. So that's why cravings feel urgent and emotional. Cortisol, the stress hormone. Sugar temporarily lowers stress, but afterward, cortisol rebounds higher. So if you were stressed out and you eat comfort food, you're gonna be more stressed out afterwards. That's fucked up. This creates a loop. Stress, you're stressed out, you eat sugar, you crash, you need more stress and more sugar. This is how the addiction cycle begins, or this is how the addiction cycle perpetuates. That's not hunger, that's stress regulation dependency. Comfort eating is the devil. So it hijacks 3 systems. So we talked about the dopamine system, the cortisol system, and then the serotonin system. So you have the happy hormone, the stress hormone, and then the love hormone. So sugar temporarily boosts serotonin. So long-term use reduces your natural production. So people think they're in love. They fall in love with the food. Instead of falling in love with people, they fall in love with the food. This is crazy. So when you stop, mood dips, you feel off and you feel emotionally flat. So when you're not eating sugar, this is what happens. So this is why that's withdrawal and not reality. So yeah, so sugar addiction hijacks those three systems. So this is why sugar addictions feel emotional, because you have you have happiness, stress, and love out of whack and imbalance just because of sugar. Happiness, stress, and love, and this can ruin your life. This can ruin your life. Crazy. We talked about the effects of sugar addiction, how long it takes for the mood to stabilize after quitting sugar, and why sugar cravings feel emotional. Now let's talk about how to break the dependence without willpower. How to break the dependence without willpower. Willpower fails because biology always wins. That's right. Biology always wins. Here's how you beat it strategically. Eat protein first. Always eat protein first. Eat protein first. Eat protein first. Protein stabilizes blood sugar and dopamine. And remember, in the last video, I talked about the carb conspiracy, right? You have to be conscious and intentional about eating protein, because it's not as readily available and it's not always as affordable, but it is more affordable in the long run, because the more protein you eat, the less hungry you are, or the less cravings you will have. Protein, eat protein first. Protein stabilizes your blood sugar and dopamine. So every meal, you need a minimum of 30 to 40 grams. And this is why I advocate getting a food scale. Get you a food scale, a little small kitchen scale, a little small kitchen food scale. This alone crushes 60 to 70. So 30 to 40 grams of protein minimum alone crushes 60 to 70% of your cravings. So examples, eggs and meat, Greek yogurt and nuts, chicken and vegetables, and protein shake. So that alone, that right there, that'll do it for you. Number two, so I said eat protein first. Number one was eat protein first. Number two, don't quit sugar cold turkey. That triggers rebound cravings. Instead, remove liquid sugar first. Juice, yes. Oh, I had to get that out of my system. Juice was the hardest thing to quit for me, because juice, not only did it taste so good, but it was so refreshing. And I had to, at first, I was still buying like the processed juice, you know what I'm saying? Like the not natural juice, but it's still somewhat natural. Or it was like the laboratory juice, but it had natural juice in it. So I was still buying that, but I invested in a juicer. I think it's not even about the food you buy, it's about the appliances, really. Like that was the level up for me. So I invested in a juicer. Great investment, you know what I'm saying? And I buy my little apples and my oranges, slice them up, cut them up. It was a little work, but it was worth it. And when I would juice, it would actually taste better than the laboratory juices I would buy, even the ones that were refrigerated. Of course. And then that's another thing too. The juice aisle. That's another carb conspiracy, right? How healthy is it? Like, how natural is it if it doesn't need to be refrigerated? You know what I'm saying? Like, that's something to think about. So I quit buying the non-refrigerated juices. Then I went over to the refrigerated juices, but it was still from a lab. You know what I mean? But and so I did that, and then I invested in a juicer. You know, I invested in a juicer as well as a little handheld juicer, so I can travel with it too. I invested in a juicer, and then I started buying like the natural juice from the produce aisle. I started buying that and then mixing it with my fruits when I would juice, you know, and that took me to another level too. So remove liquid sugar first, then desserts, then snacks. Yeah, like some people were brought up, most of us were I wasn't brought up that way, but I realized that most people were brought up to always have a dessert with their meal. You don't always need a dessert. And then like the restaurants know what they're doing. Here's another carb conspiracy. The restaurants know what they're doing when the server always asks you, would you like, when you're done eating this, they'll say, what's the first thing they'll say? Would you like any dessert? Right? Because of course it brings a bigger bill. Bigger tip, right? So yeah, quit liquid sugar, then quit desserts, then snacks. I've said this before. I had a time when I was eating. There was a time where I was eating a Twinkie at a minimum of 2 Twinkies a day, if not 3. 2 Twinkies a day. So you could imagine how I looked back then when I took my shirt off. I was eating 2 to 3 Twinkies a day. Terrible. So yeah, remove liquids first, then desserts, then snacks, and then hidden sugars. I think that hidden sugars would be like in like the food preparation. So like in how you prepare your food. I know I quit pasta, any kind of pasta, mac and cheese, especially mac and cheese. Whoa, no. Mac and cheese, you name it, whatever kind of carb it was, noodles. I don't eat none of that no more. Most I'll do is rice, because at least it's natural. It's from the ground. You know what I mean? But no process, none of that processed garbage. No processed garbage. This stepping down from these sugars beats willpower. So, woo, I had to deep dive into that one. So how to break sugar dependence. Number 1, eat protein first. Number 2, don't quit sugar cold turkey. Number 3, replace the dopamine hit. You must replace sugar's emotional role. So best replacements is walking, cold exposure, music and movement, a high protein meal, and sunlight. Yeah, like get outside, go outside, and see. And here's the cycle. Here's the nasty downward spiral. You an asshole, you lazy, you depressed. You don't want to go outside. You don't want to do nothing. You know what I'm saying? You comfort eating all the time. You inside the house. So not only are you being an asshole, you getting fat and lazy. You depressed. You know what I mean? And then your skin is bad because you ain't getting no sunlight. So you just a creature all of a sudden. Like this is bad. This is bad. All right. So how to break sugar dependence. Number 1, eat protein first. Number 2, don't quit sugar cold turkey. Number 3, replace dopamine. Number 4, lastly, eat on a schedule. This is a big. Oh my God. Oh, I like. Before I revolutionized my life, I remember I caught a key over a decade ago. Where what was it? I was at a gym. I was at this local gym and I was training there, and the trainers used to say all the time, eat 4 small meals before 7 p.m. Wow. Why didn't anybody tell me? Like this made a world of difference for me. 4 small meals before 7 p.m. 7 p.m. That 7 p.m. cutoff. Like when you make that your target, when you say, okay, I don't care what I eat, I just need to eat enough food for the day before 7 p.m. So I don't go to bed hungry. When you make that shit, when that kind of nutritionally, that kind of reframes your mindset. So now you're like, oh, well, I need to eat earlier. Well, I'm not hungry early because I ate late. So maybe I should eat earlier so that the next day I won't be as hungry so late. So I'll be hungrier earlier so that I can eat earlier and I can have more food. Like this, it rewires your brain, and it really changes how you live, because now you're thinking, okay, well, if I need to eat earlier, what is my schedule like? How can I fit food? How can I fit my meal into my schedule? Because if I'm doing this or doing that, whatever my lifestyle is, then I need to. How can I fit a meal into that schedule? And now you're planning your life around your meals, and then your life is slowly but surely changing. Regular eating causes unstable blood sugar, which causes cravings. So aim for 2 to 3 solid meals, no grazing, whatever that means, and no late night sugar. No. What I started doing just recently, within the last 6 months, if I was still hungry after 7 p.m., if I'm still hungry, I just boil some eggs. I'll boil some eggs, get my nutrients and protein in, and I'm good. You know what I mean? I need to start buying some beef jerky, and just having that as a snack. Predictability calms the nervous system. Yes. So if you just eating meals willy-nilly and not planning through the day, now you like, oh man, it's 3 o'clock in the morning, I'm still hungry, I gotta find something. Now you looking like a bag of laundry in the mirror. There was times when I used to eat late at night, and then the next day I would feel my belly jiggle. This is terrible. This is bad. All right, so let's recap. How to break sugar dependence. Number 1, eat protein first. Number 2, don't quit sugar cold turkey. Number 3, replace the dopamine hit. Number 4, eat on a schedule. And the truth most people miss, sugar addiction isn't about discipline. It's about neurochemistry and blood sugar control. Once those stabilize, the mood stabilizes, cravings quiet, blah, blah, blah. Focus improves, emotional reactivity drops, willpower becomes unnecessary. When people say they're food addicted, they're not really food addicted. They're sugar addicted. You know, when people say, oh, I feel the need to have this particular food, I feel the need to have that particular food, whatever the name of the food is. No, you're just addicted to sugar. You're just addicted to sugar. And yeah, we need carbohydrates. Now don't get that twisted. We need carbohydrates. We need that energy, the energy we get from carbohydrates. But when you begin to prioritize protein and putting yourself on a meal schedule, all those things I just mentioned, like I don't know how to preach. And sugar addiction it's an economy issue because of the carb conspiracy, but it's also a personality issue. It's also a character issue, because quitting sugar and living a healthy lifestyle requires a particular character. It requires a particular type of person, and none of us were born that way. We're human. Sugar addiction is a human addiction. Just like any other drug addiction, the way the body and the brain and the hormones and your physiology reacts to drugs and in the same way it does to sugar, that's because you're human. And so finding the character, building the character of someone who lives healthy and eats healthy in a healthy way is human also. But there has to be a certain motivation. Like, you probably do you own a mirror? Like, where do you find the motivation? How do you feel when you look in the mirror? How do you feel when you go to the beach or to the pool? Do you go to the beach or to the pool at all? How do you feel when you walk into a room of opposite sex suitors? So if you're a man, you know, how do you feel? You know, most guys don't care typically, but we all know that beauty is a woman's currency. So as a woman, if you were a woman listening to this, how would you feel walking into a room full of men? You know? And these things play a part. When it comes to sugar addiction, it all comes together. It all comes together. All of the science and physiology I broke down, it all makes sense. It all ties in. It's not just your personality. Maybe it's your sugar addiction. Try it. You'll see. Try quitting. You'll see.